no problem with somebody using social media as a tool to promote whatever it is that they're doing, but there's got to be a there. There's got to be a real true service offering to help somebody get somewhere in life, rather than just an offering that says, hey, you give me lots of money and I'll share with you how to ask people for lots of money to share with them how to put up Instagram posts to make lots. It's kind of
I get them all the time. Yeah, please pay me $100 and I'll get you all these followers. And I thought, well, you go away.
I think it's important, to work on what's the work that sits underneath it. So, if you're a consultant, by all means, use social media and use it from time to time, not particularly well, but do use it to put content out there and share stuff with folks that are interested. And
Talking with the experts.
Hello, my name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and welcome to Talking with the Experts. And Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dave McKeown. And Dave is from Outfield Leadership. And we're going to be discussing how to rebuild your growth plans in a world of uncertainty. And Dave helps individuals, teams, and organizations achieve excellence by doing the ordinary things extraordinarily well. He is the CEO of Outfield Leadership and the author of The Self-Evolved Leader: Elevate Your Focus and Develop Your People in a World That Refuses to Slow Down. Wow, that's a huge title. He has a wealth of experience in connecting individual and team performance to improve business results with a particular focus on fast-growing, complex organizations. As the founder and CEO of Outfield Leadership, Dave now speaks, coaches, and trains on moving from execution to excellence. And his goal is to help organizations build a culture of real, authentic, but ultimately result-driven leadership. Welcome, Dave, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Rose, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Okay, great. So tell me a little bit about how the recent pandemic has affected you and your business.
Sure. Well, I do a couple of things, but if I could boil it down to two major things, is I work with senior leadership teams on helping them build and then execute their strategic growth plans. And then I help to build leadership training programs to help them build the leaders that they need in their organizations to deliver those growth plans. And as you can imagine, a lot of that stuff is face-to-face, or certainly was face-to-face up until about 14 months ago or so. I would probably say about 15 to 20% of my business was online. I was doing doing some virtual sessions. And then all of a sudden overnight, everything started to get canceled and events were no longer in play. And, we switched to this completely virtual world over the last 12 months or so. And it's been an interesting journey. I think that it's despite what's caused it, there's actually been some real benefit in helping us figure out a way to deliver a lot of the stuff that we used to have to do in person. We can now do it in a wonderful virtual setting.
Yeah, I agree. I think the pandemic has helped us become more connected. A lot of times, it used to take you hours to get to a meeting, and now you can just dial in basically on Zoom or whatever digital platform that that you're using. And it's instantaneous now, and
it is great. It's fantastic, and I say to my wife often, it's like used to be the case that if I was doing a 4-hour workshop in the morning somewhere, I'd have to fly the day before, have to get a hotel room. You'd spend 8 hours before the session, needing to be there and all of that stuff. You deliver it and then you come home again. Whereas now I get to sleep in my own bed and roll out and walk the dog and then jump online and do it. And I do think that it's interesting because I think delivering a training session and delivering consulting online is very different than it is in the real world. And I think those folks that are really making it work have seen that and are adjusting to that and saying, okay, this isn't about taking the offline online. It's actually about building and creating a brand new experience, a brand new way to deliver content, and then a brand new way for people to consume that as well, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that's the only plus I can say from the pandemic, but never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, right? I think that, we may well look back at it and say, was it an opportunity where people were able to reconnect with some core values of theirs that had maybe strayed over the busyness of the years before? And I'm certainly seeing it happen on an organizational level, but it may well happen on an individual level as well, that whenever your things are taken out of your control and you're forced to focus on what's truly most important for you, if you spend the time to listen to that, it's actually a really interesting picture emerges of what's truly important to you. Particularly for a lot of our organizations, when you go through time of success and of growth, it's very easy for things to accrete. So, you end up, you've got a product or a service that you're supporting, even though not that many clients buy it, but maybe because there's one that you like, or there's a system and process that's been in place for years and you're sort of not really sure why it's there, but it's just there because it's always the way that we've done it. Well, whenever you start to, your control is restricted, I think we start to see things a little more clearly and go, okay, well, now might be a perfect time to sunset that, or to change that, or to get back to some core of who we are. And we may well see the long-term advantage of that as well.
Yeah, I think it has forced people to change the way they actually do business. And you're right, people of organizations and small businesses have been doing stuff the same way forever. And, their forever things just can't continue as they were because you can't do it in person any longer. So
yeah, and I think entire business models of who, depending on the industry that you're in, who you sell to, how you sell it, how you deliver it, people had to get really creative and figure out ways around that. And I think in some cases there'll be a natural reversion back to the way things were, but in some cases I think some organizations have whole new product lines that they didn't even know, or a whole customer segment that they stumbled upon because from both a seller and a buyer perspective, it forced them together. I saw a lot of B2B companies shifting to a more consumer-based focus, trying to, help people in the home. One of my favorite clients, one of my best clients, is a clothes retailer. And I just I spoke to the president a couple of weeks ago, and he said the last quarter they made, I don't think it was more money from this than selling clothes, but they made a substantial amount of money from selling candles to the people that were their customers, because nobody's buying clothes because nobody's going out anymore, nobody's buying anything fancy, but we're in our house, so we want to decorate it in a nice way and make it feel like a sanctuary. So I think those organizations that are on the front foot of saying, what, this is a really sucky situation, what can we do to try to make this better for our customers, for the people that we serve, for our communities, for the people that work for us, and that's a tiring place to be, because as things have changed and come back and gone forward and come back and gone sideways, and it sort of feels like for the business leader, you're waking up every week and going, okay, well, what's the external circumstance that we got to deal with today?
Yeah. So I don't know, are people that you are dealing with, are they making long-term plans, or are they just living from, month to month?
I'm encouraging people to do two things. One, to start to cast a longer term net, about 12 months out. I think anything beyond that, it's funny, we were, before all of this happened, I think our long-term planning horizons was shrinking anyway. People used to talk about 10-year plans, and then they started talking about 5-year plans. And then it was like, okay, well, 3 years is probably enough because the world changes so quickly. I think at least for the short term, who knows, it may stick around for a while. I'm encouraging business leaders to say, okay, let's at least build a 12-month plan, knowing and understanding there's going to be a ton of assumptions in there. Things can shift and change, but let's give us something to work towards. And the reason why I say that is, when you get forced to focus in the weeds in the tactical day-to-day like we have over the last year or so, there's a really strong gravitational behavioral pull to stay there. It's almost like, okay, well, that it feels like I can control more if I'm just focused on the day-to-day, and there are advantages of that, but in the long term then there are disadvantages, because it's hard to then shift your focus a little bit more. So it's almost like if you can go through the exercise of doing some 12-month planning, it just works that muscle a little bit more, and you stops it from completely losing all of its strength. But at the same time, I think we've got to keep a ruthless focus on certainly the next 90 days, and in some industries, some cases, the next 30 days, because we're still not out of the woods. We're still firefighting a lot of trenches. And so I'm seeing a lot of teams, and I'm encouraging a lot of teams to run a dual track. Okay, what's our 12-month plan? And then what's our focus for the next 30, 90 days?
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. So I guess, what does your business actually, I mean, I know I explained it in the intro, but, can you just go through exactly what your business offers?
Sure. So I typically start with a 2-day strategic planning exercise with the senior leadership teams of an organization. And we work through all the way from what are the guiding principles of the organization, who do you serve, how do you serve them, what makes you different, what are your core values, all the way to what do you want to do over the next 30 days. And so we kind of fill in all of the blanks in the middle to say, okay, well, these are our guiding principles of who we are. What are our kind of longer term plans? What are our annual plans? What do we need to test or try this quarter to get there? And so I work a very interactive process with senior leaders there. And then I work with them either individually or as on a team basis through a period of 6, 12, 18, 24 months to help them build that drumbeat of execution. I work typically with faster growing organizations, usually still founder owned, not always, but certainly those organizations that are seeking out a little bit of structure around that planning and implementation. They've succeeded and got to where they have off of the back of sheer work and determination, and now they want to build some slightly more mature processes in place. So that's where I spend most of my time.
Okay, so what makes an organization a little bit redundant and they need your services?
I think if they feel that they've got to the point where sheer effort isn't enough, there's a certain growth stage that organizations go through where, if we just come in and kind of throw a dart at the wall, say we're going in that direction, and if you hire good people and well-intentioned people, you can sort of just get there through dogged determination and a little bit of luck, as we all have. And the funny thing is you can build quite substantially sized organizations. Billion-dollar companies sometimes don't have much of a robust planning process. But there comes a time, it's usually the CEO, sometimes if they're the founder as well, where they say, okay, if we really want to build something that's going to outlast the original incarnation of this organization, or I really want to build a leadership team or an organization that's going to be able to scale for the long term, we need to have something that's a little bit more robust in our planning processes. And that's typically where I come into the picture. I work with very diverse groups of leaders to try to help essentially get them all aligned around that common goal and where they're going. And that's quite a behavioral shift for a lot of senior leaders. If you think about fast growing, just say yes and then figure out how to deliver at organizations, you're trying to tell a bunch of leaders, some of which you've been in the business for 10, 20, 30 years to say, well, hey, we actually have to slow down this a little bit just so that we can implement it, in the appropriate way and not have to go and do some rework. And so a lot of the work that I do is just helping those leaders make that behavioral shift.
We hear a lot of the word authentic these days. It seems to be sort of the buzzword the last 12 months or so. So what does make an authentic leader?
I think it's somebody who feels that if you can actually tell an authentic leader. The best way to tell it, funny enough, maybe not one way to tell it, one tell is this. So you sit in a meeting and, leader comes in, does a little bit of, small talk with everybody. Hey, how you doing? How was the weekend? How are the kids? Blah, 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 all that stuff. And then there's this shift, it's almost, they almost clear their throat, or at least it makes it feel like there's just this pause, and they sort of shift into this completely different person and go, well, thank you all for being here, and this is our very important meeting. We're here to talk about all these three things. I'm sitting there and I'm like, you knew all of these people. You were literally just talking to them about their weekend and what they were up to, and you probably know a lot of the spouses and the kids, and it's like, so who's this person that's just appeared? And I'm not saying that there's not room for professionalism. I think there absolutely is. I think we have to be professional, but I think authenticity is just about trying to drop some of that veneer, that corporate business veneer that we've been told and taught we need to do in order to somehow be respected or taken seriously. And I think that the more that we can create environments in which people genuinely feel like they can come in and go, hey, sorry, I'm having a pretty crappy morning. I'm here and I'm focused. I might have to take a phone call halfway through. Is that okay? Can we take and it's just like talking like a normal person would. Like to me, there's an element of authenticity there. The funny thing is actually where a lot of it's almost like the theme comes from two places. One, we are hearing a lot about it from the business world and the corporate world. The other place that we're hearing a lot of it from is the social media, Instagram-y type influencer world, which is the complete opposite of authenticity. Anybody that's going down that route and saying they're authentic is just making it all up. It's all an act.
Blowing
so we got to,
yeah,
we got to separate those two things,
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I think influencers are a breed of their own, and I don't think that they're just not real people. That's just my opinion.
And I've got no problem with somebody using social media as a tool to promote whatever it is that they're doing, but there's got to be a there. There's got to be a real true service offering to help somebody get somewhere in life, rather than just an offering that says, hey, you give me lots of money and I'll share with you how to ask people for lots of money to share with them how to put up Instagram posts to make lots. It's kind of what's
I get them all the time. Yeah, please pay me $100 and I'll get you all these followers. And I thought, well, you go away.
I think it's important, to work on what's the work that sits underneath it. So, if you're a consultant, by all means, use social media and use it from time to time, not particularly well, but I do use it to put content out there and share stuff with folks that are interested, and from time to time promote what it is that I do. But there's something there, right? It's like there's a body of work that sits underneath it.
Absolutely. So tell me a bit about your book, Dave.
So the book's called The Self-Evolved Leader. Just celebrated its 1 year anniversary. And it's really written for leaders at any level of an organization to help them put in place some of that structure around longer term planning for your team and development of your people. And I wrote it for a couple of reasons. One, because I think we've done the leaders in our organizations a little bit of a disservice by saying essentially that you don't have to worry about your growth and development. The company will do it for you. So you'll get put into a leadership program, or you'll grow and develop that way. And actually what I found over the years is those leaders that actually take control of their own growth and development, they're the ones that really make a difference. And so I wanted to give a resource for those leaders who have a desire to take the concept of leadership and actually turn it into something great. I also wrote it then for leaders who have a heart for developing the people underneath them, who understand and realize that leadership isn't just about getting results. Yes, leadership, we've got to go somewhere, we've got to achieve something, but if we're not growing and developing our people underneath that, there's no real point behind it. We've got to find a way to build a legacy and lead a team underneath us. And so I had this little 3x5 card that I sat in front of me whenever I wrote it that said, between the philosophical and the practical lies progress. And what I wanted to do was write a book that sort of sat in the middle, that like had enough ideas in it that you would go, oh, this is really interesting. But then there was enough actual step-by-step details in there about what to do it. A lot of business authors, they'll write their book and it's 13 chapters on basically one theme, and they just use different versions of case studies to basically share the same theme. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to say here's the roadmap to effective leadership from my perspective, and here's a very specific path to get there.
Wow, that's interesting. And where's it available?
It is available anywhere you can get good books. I mean, I guess not very many people are going into bookstores these days, but you can get it on Amazon. And if you go to selfevolvedleader.com, you'll see all of the details there, and there'll be some links on the website.
Perfect. So where else can they find you, Dave?
You can find me at davemckeown.com, McKeown. I'm also on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube, and put out stuff from time to time out there. I would love to connect with anybody that's out there. Always love to talk to leaders or aspiring leaders and help them on their journey.
I'll have to go to LinkedIn and stalk you.
Yeah, for sure. Connect.
I love stalking people on LinkedIn. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
But they get that little notification that so-and-so's looked at your profile, and they're like, why has that person looked at my profile? And then they stalk you back.
Yeah. And you think, why have they looked at me? And I thought, but they've not, interacted. I thought, well, why have they looked in the first place?
Right. Yeah.
That bothers me a little bit, but
particularly because it tells you where they found you from, and it's like so-and-so found you from the search panel. So they clearly wanted to go find you, and then they haven't, and you're like, okay, that's a bit strange.
What? What are you doing? Anyway, so what final words of wisdom have you got for our viewers and listeners today?
I think the thing that I've been saying throughout the last 12 months is control what you can control and don't worry about the rest. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world in the past, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the future that we really have no control over. And we just got to stay focused on those things that are within our purview and make the best of that every single day. Perfect words, actually.
There's everything's up in the air and you can't really control anything.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I will go to your LinkedIn and push that button.
Thanks for having me, Rose. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dave.